Welcome to the Contrarians and to another episode of Curating the Ultimate Concept Album. Tonight's band is Iron Maiden. Reed is here hosting. We've got a great panel. We want to hear from you in the chat. Let's do it.
And welcome back to the Contrarians. Today, we are doing a Patreon voted on thought exercise. We're going to write a concept album from the catalog of Iron Maiden, one of my favorite bands of all time. Now, like many terms in the rock criticism world, the term concept album is somewhat nebulous. It's, could it be an album where the songs are about a concept? Is it an album that tells a story? There are lots of different ways you can take it. We leave it up to the individual panelist. So we're going to go around and talk about, don't just tell us your songs, tell us what variety of concept that you are going with. Give us your songs, explain how it all works together. Let's get the full concept album experience. And we're going to start with Phil. Phil, what have you got for it?
Okay, well, hi guys. Nice to be here again. It's been a while. Honestly, initially, I thought of it like, there was a lot of low-hanging fruit. Like, I don't know, I could have thought of an album that would be conceptually anti-war, but Iron Maiden have written so many songs. They have an entire album that's basically anti-war, which is, Matter of Life and Death, of course. And then I thought of, in general, maybe Iron Maiden as a prog band. So I would kind of think of an album that is much more centered on the basic rules and tenets of prog rock, which we all know Steve Harris was largely influenced by. One of his major influences has always been Chris Squire of Yes, and he listened to a lot of Genesis. Plus, most of the music of Iron Maiden is very conceptual, so that would make sense. But in the end, because I am a film guy, my background is in film, and I teach film, and I love movies. So I thought, you know what? Let's try to somehow think of an Iron Maiden album where the whole point would be songs that are entirely based lyrically on films, and some of those songs would also be, to some extent, cinematic, grandiose, a bit like some of these really epic movies that sometimes are source material for a band like Iron Maiden. Okay, so let's say you would have an album that would be called At the Movies. Maybe sounds a bit cheesy, I don't know. But anyway, I have collected around nine songs, I think, here, spanning almost the entire discography of Iron Maiden, starting with Phantom of the Opera from the 1962 Hammer horror film starring Herbert Lom. So obviously, Hammer films are a staple of British cinema and of the particular kind of version of horror cinema that went on with UK cinema, and Phantom of the Opera was one essential film there. Next tune would be Children of the Damned, of course, from Number of the Beast, which was inspired from the 1964 film Village of the Damned. Phantom of the Opera is quite cinematic. Maybe also Children of the Damned. Then, Where Eagles Dare from Peace of Mind is inspired by the 1968 World War II epic, which actually featured Clint Eastwood and Richard Burton. So one very important American actor, one very important British actor, and of course another war film, one of those that feels like it's almost celebrating war and of course fighter planes, which we know Bruce Dickinson has always been obsessed with. that's already 1, 2, 3 songs. Then, of course, continuing on the same theme of like flying, essentially. Of course, Aces High, which apparently, according to the research I did, is based on the 1976 war film about Royal Flying Corps efforts during World War One. This time. Then also again from the Power Slave album, The Duelists, very, very deep cut. A song that I wish they would have played on the current tour for their 50 years, which I happened to see, parenthesis, tangent, which I happened to see in London at West Ham. And it was great, but, you know, I wish they would have played maybe a song as rare as The Duelist, which is based on the 1977 film by the same name, starring Keith Carradine, Harvey Keitel, and Albert Finney, which I think also was directed by Ridley Scott. Which again features some sort of military themes. So I think we have another kind of narrative thread here. Then, of course, I would go with another staple of British cinema, kind of horror cinema, The Wicker Man, of course, from the Brave New World album, based on the fantastic 1973 British folk horror film, which have you guys seen The Wicker Man?
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah, it's
I wish.
great film. It's a great cult horror film. Then going on to a song, probably, you know, one of the top 3 songs of the Blaze Bayley era, from Virtual 11, of course, The Klansman, based on one of the worst films ever made, in my opinion. What's it called? Braveheart, about Scotland and all that very cheesy film about, you know, freedom and all that stuff. I loved it when I was a kid. And then when I grew up, I saw it again. I thought, wow, this is really bad. Then I have also here another Blaze Bayley top 5, maybe even top 3. Man on the Edge, great, fast tune, banger of a tune, not so cinematic or grandiose, or prog. From the 1993 film Falling Down with Michael Douglas, where he throws a fit in the LA traffic, and he basically goes on a murderous rampage. You guys have seen, I guess, that film probably. And then last one to get to some more recent albums, of course, again from Matter of Life and Death, The Longest Day, which I have to mention, of course, because I live in France, in Normandy, and the song is based on the film by the same name, starring John Wayne and Peter Fonda. Or is it Henry Fonda? Well, either of the Fondas. Anyway, great classic war film about the American intervention in Normandy called The Longest Day. I think it's from the 60s. And yeah, that completes my concept of, let's say, Iron Maiden at the movies.
Okay, excellent.
I've got a couple more if we do it again. So yeah.
All right. I'll tell you what. We'll go around the horn and I'll give you a chance to do another one.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that Aces High is based on the Battle of Britain. But
okay.
somebody in the comments, I'm sure, will say more. But he does call
Fair
out the ME-109, which is a German fighter from World War II.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Lance,
All right.
let's go with your
Yeah.
concept. What have you got?
All right. So, like Philip was saying, there's a lot of different ways that we could go with this. And I was thinking about at first doing some sorts of, I guess, like a compilation, but not as creative as what he had, not as movies. You know, at first I was going as simple as song lengths, and then I'm looking at moods. And then I realized a lot of them are kind of about war. So I wasn't trying to, like he said, kind of just do a matter of life and death or something like that and recreate it. So I ended up taking my favorite album, taking the cover of that album, and then making a story out of it based off of the vibes of the songs. So some of the songs are going to be deeper cuts and some of them are hits, but that's not intentional. I did it strictly based off of the song, and I have to enjoy the song, though. I had to make sure it was a good album, something I wanted to listen to. And my only stipulation was less than an hour, because I don't like really long albums. So first we're going to start with Caught Somewhere in Time. Somewhere in Time's probably it's got to be my favorite Maiden album for the last, 5 years at least or so. And I think we all know how that song starts. It sounds like you are maybe landing in somewhere, or you're in this kind of, futuristic area, right? That's the picture that they're trying to paint. Has a bit of like a spaceship feel to it. And the vocals on that song, he's caught somewhere in time. Now, I'm not going as deep as the concepts, as just saying, okay, straightforward, what is caught somewhere in time about. But when you hear Dickinson singing that song, it really feels like somewhere who's, you've gone through a portal, or they've literally time traveled. Where am I at? So the next one we're gonna go to, it's Brave New World. Our character, it's gonna be, Eddie. He's got that pistol, or whatever he's geared up with, and he's in the Brave New World. I'm assuming that he landed in this not so nice looking area at first that we see on the '86 album, but then, if you look at the Brave New World cover, it's more utopian per se. Everything looks nice, right? You got these ivory towers and these loopy looking buildings, flying cars and stuff. I think it's a modern version of London. He's walking through the city. You can imagine the character. It has this a bit of a spacey feel to that song, maybe not as much, but he's just checking everything out. He's trying to figure out where he's at. That's kind of the way I imagine it. And you might have to fill in some details yourself here. The next part, I imagine he's kind of running through this city a bit quicker now, or maybe he hopped in some sort of a train or something. But we're gonna go to an instrumental track, one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs. I think it's really underrated. That's Lost for Words, Big Aura off of Power Slave. I love that song. I can't nitpick it at all. I know a lot of people think it's kind of boring, or Maiden doesn't really do instrumentals well, but I love that song, especially the bass on that song. If like you haven't listened to it in a long time, just give that another spin. And I feel like that is a perfect song for when you're doing something, but you don't need, you don't need words to describe that song. It kind of sets a good mood, and I like that in an album, so I thought that would be a good pick. Next, I'm gonna go to one of my favorite songs, another Iron Maiden song that people really seem to not enjoy when I read lots of like forums and stuff, is El Dorado, off of the Final Frontier. I love that song. I imagine that someone tells our character, "You're in El Dorado. What do you mean you don't know you're at? You're in this fantastic city. It's a city of gold per se. Maybe it's not really gold, but I think if you kind of read into that song a little bit, and just the general concept that people use El Dorado with, I can imagine, people in the city, they're kind of fooled into believing that they're in a city of gold. My next song, we're gonna go to Revelations. This is where our character Eddie starts figuring out what's really going on in this place. Maybe it's not quite a utopia at all. I like the name Revelations. It's pretty straightforward. You can see him kind of doing that. But that song as well, it talks a bit about a lot of isms, some Crowleyisms, some thoughts that people have about how they can maybe better themselves without external things or religion. And I think there's a lot going in that song. I think it would be very fitting to a society that was like this, or maybe pushed forward a lot. But I can imagine our character Eddie gets in some sort of a conflict, or he's gonna maybe fight the fat cats that you see in one of a music video and a song I'll reference later. But we're gonna go into Aces High. I think that's a song that Philip had. It's a great kind of war action song. It feels like planes are taking off, right? We kind of discussed that. So that's track 6. The next one, we're gonna keep the energy going. Be Quick or Be Dead. Absolutely love that song. I think it's one of Maiden's probably like hardest songs. That maybe a couple on the first or the second album, but that's probably about it. I mean, when I think of the hardest Maiden songs, there's a couple riffs through other songs, but I love Be Quick or Be Dead. It's the first one on Fear the Dark. And again, where this 3-4 song stretch here, I imagine we're in some sort of a battle scenario. Maybe he's fighting the beast, maybe he's fighting the devil. We're gonna go into Writing on the Wall. I absolutely love that song. If you've ever seen the animated video for it, it kind of shows these big wigs and suits, and Eddie kind of, in a way, maybe saves the day, but it depends how you interpret the video too. I love Writing on the Wall. It's got that slow kind of hard rock. It's got that certain scale to it, you hear in so many songs. It's really cool, and I love the lyrics when it's talking about from Hollywood to Birmingham and all that. We're gonna go into Number and the Beast now. I don't think much needs to be said about that song, but I love how that would be kind of be the apex of some sort of a battle, or maybe it's Eddie, like I said, if you want to interpret it as he's just fighting the beast, maybe on the album cover, right? By the end, Eddie's in control. So I absolutely love that song, you know, in the end, the I Will Return, all that. And then our final song on the album, it's actually going to be an intro song on the album it's on. It's going to be Wildest Dreams. I love that song. It's really underrated. Iron Maiden. It's on Dance for Death. I think that's the intro song on there. And it's just, you know, I'm on my way. I'm on my own again. It's got a happy feel. So I thought that would be a good way to close out the album. As far as Eddie getting back, I don't have much of a solution to that. You'll have to fill that in for yourself because I don't know where he came from in the first place. So that's my album.
Okay, very good. And what were you going to call your concept? Did you have an overall title?
You know, I didn't. I did not name it.
All right. Well, think about it. Maybe you can come up with the title for it.
Yeah.
I think it helps a concept to have a title on it to put it all together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I also have come up with a concept album, of course.
Whoa.
So I wanted to go with more of a story-based concept and a very visual, very movie-based concept. We are in an age when it's not unusual for bands to put out a music video for every song on an album. Like on Senjutsu, there's a YouTube video. It's not really like a story-based music video. They just have like waving flags and things. But nonetheless, there's a visual representation of each song. So I thought it's certainly not outside the realm of possibility that you could have, say, an animated video that would go along with each song. Now, of course, Iron Maiden did a concept album, 1988's Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, the most British fantasy concept of all time. So I wanted to restrict myself to using songs from somewhere in time and earlier in their career so that this album would be a direct competitor for Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. So I call mine The Village. Now, I'm actually stealing a couple of concepts because, as Phil already pointed out, Iron Maiden often used concepts from movies, TV shows, books as the basis for their music. So I'm going to start off, though, with a very unusual track, and that's the Iron Maiden cover of the Montrose classic Space Station Number 5, which, by the way, I don't think is a very good cover. I think that in general, Iron Maiden's not very good at covering other people's music. I think they just slap those together and they don't put a ton of effort into it, and they sound much better doing original material than doing covers. But in this case, I'm going to open up my video in space. We're just going to fly in past Space Station Number 5. It's a happy, upbeat song. It just establishes the themes, science fiction. People have been living underground, and now they're coming out and they're going to Space Station Number 5 because it's going to completely set the wrong mood. It's a sucker punch. I'm pulling the rug out from under them. So the next song, we're going to pan into a bombed out British village because, in fact, my story is set just after World War II. It's set in the late 40s, early 50s. So we've got a young man. He's a World War II veteran. He's laying in bed watching this shooting star come down, and he's having all of these really strange thoughts. And I'm going to cue that song up with Another Life from the Killers album, which, of course, is a song about a man having strange thoughts. But the energy is still nice and high. It's an upbeat sounding song, but we're going to go a little bit further off on the next track. Now we're going to go to a young woman. And she's also laying in bed thinking about her dead husband or lover who died in the war. But she starts to think that maybe she's hearing messages from him from the other side. And we're going to play that to the track Twilight Zone, which, of course, is about a woman being visited, or a man being visited by a dead one, a dead loved one. She can't talk this evening. So she's laying there in bed thinking that perhaps her dead lover is coming to visit her. And then, if you know the story, the next track is just completely ripping off the movie Children of the Damned, one of my favorite tracks from Number of the Beast. And perhaps it's a cheat because they are taking the story from an outside source, but nonetheless, it's such an evocative track. The idea is that every woman in this village of childbearing age wakes up pregnant at the exact same time, and then they all give birth at the exact same time. The children bear very little physical resemblance to their parents, and they also appear to be a hive mind with psychic powers. So it's this kind of existential dread. The men don't know what's happened. You know, did their women, were they unfaithful during the war? You have all of these children that are probably not their own children. And then this dread of the alien other. These children refuse to conform. They won't do what they're told. And by the way, they have psychic powers. So if they really don't like what they're telling or what you're telling them, they can hurt you very, very badly. And eventually the country goes to war with these children. So in my storyline, the young man who was having the thoughts earlier, listening to Another Life, he's now moved on to be like a rebel. He did not have a wife. He doesn't have a child, but he doesn't like living under this oppressive police state run by these psychic kids. So now our English village has become the Village. He doesn't even have a name anymore. He's just number 6. And we're going to set it to the track, The Prisoner. All about, he doesn't want to be a prisoner. He's going to fight back and he's going to obtain his freedom, and they can't take his freedom from him. Well, more on that in a minute. So he's rebelling against the kids. Our young woman, as are all women in the village, and I'm sorry that I don't mean for this to come off as misogynist. It's a very anti-motherhood kind of story in a way. But she, again, is having these visitations from her dead lover. And she thinks that the dead lover is telling her that if she commits, I can't even say the word on a YouTube video, if she goes to the village well and submerses herself in the well, that they will be together forever. So, of course, this is the literal story behind the track Still Life. And we end her video with her giving a warning to the rest of the village. It's not just me. They want you too. And then we're going to move on to one of my favorite tracks from Power Slave, which is Back in the Village. Lance, when you mentioned a really hard, heavy Iron Maiden song, he's got that great this great, fast battle riff. So now number 6 is at war with the children. You know, just passive defense has not worked. It's outright war. It's the people versus the psychic kids. At the end of the video, we back out and we see that this is happening all over the globe. And it's not going well because psychic kids. So in our next track, there's only one survivor left. He's viewing an absolute scorched earth, wondering if it all went, where it all went wrong, wondering if it's all worth it. And that's going to be set to the tune of Stranger in a Strange Land, one of my favorite tracks from Somewhere in Time. So he contemplates the end of everything as he dies alone. Bleak, but we're not quite done. There's one more track. So every good fable ends with a moral. Now, the moral of this story should be that your children are not really aliens. You need to love and cherish them. But Iron Maiden never wrote a song about being a good parent. So instead, we're going to go with the moral being nobody knows how much time they have on this earth. You've got to enjoy it while you can. And that is wasted years. So, terrible, tragic tale, but we're going to end on a happy, hopeful note. Maybe you won't waste your life the way that these poor psychic children-ridden people did in the village.
How did you come up with this? It feels like you should pitch it to Netflix or something.
Well, it's a little derivative of some concepts, all right, but that's what it's all about. You take something that already exists and you tweak a few things and make it your own. That's how you make a story, right? So
Cool.
there you go. That's my concept album, The Village.
It's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, that's much more that has a real story to it. Mine was more like putting like a compilation, let's say. Yeah.
Yeah. What I think of as a high concept album instead of a concept album, because you have a concept for why the songs belong together, but they don't tell a story.
Yeah. I mean, when you think of it, like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, I still, I mean, I've been an Iron Maiden fan for I don't know how many tens of years already, like more than 20, but I still don't perfectly understand what the concept is of Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, because it's obviously not exactly a story like you just told one, which has a bit of a plot and kind of things that happen one after the other. It feels like there's a bunch of themes that are related to big ideas and concepts of like mortality or God or Satan or something, but I still don't fully get it. So that's like another different, kind of concept of a vague kind of big idea concept.
Right. And of course, famously, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son came out, I believe, the same year as Operation Mindcrime. Mindcrime might have come out in 89, but I think it was 88. I'm sure somebody will fact check me in the comments. But it's a much more straightforward story. And I know Bruce Dickinson thought that Mindcrime was the better album. I like Seventh Son much better. I think Operation Mindcrime is just depressing.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
So, and Phil, you said you had some backups. What have you got as a backup concept?
All right. Maiden very often, especially I think Bruce Dickinson, because they have that kind of Monty Python-esque thing going often in their in the personality of the band. Monty Python's being, of course, a staple of British humor and TV and culture, basically. And the whole idea of like quote unquote taking the piss is a very British thing to do. I thought, you know what, I'll do that. I'll take the piss a bit, and I'll do another compilation where the title could be very well, instead of Genesis We Can't Dance, I would call it We Can't Compose, and it would be basically an album full of stinkers.
Huh.
I apologize in advance because I know I might get some stick for this in the comments, but it would be an album of 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 10 tunes again, which I think is the maximum that we were given, and it would feature a couple of basically from the worst albums, maybe like 2 songs from each, and those are in particular. It starts with Weekend Warrior and The Apparition from Fear of the Dark, when Iron Maiden decided to go a bit more hard rock, and sorry, but it sounds awful. Then Virtual 11 with The Angel and the Gambler. We all know, of course, that chorus that keeps repeating for about 5 minutes or so. Don't Look to the Eyes of a Stranger, also from the same album. From Dance of Death, I went with Age of Innocence, which is utterly boring and uninspired, in my opinion. Then, with my apologies also to Lance, I went to Final Frontier with Satellite 15 and El Dorado, which never sat well with me, despite the fact that it has a signature galloping riff and verses. I don't know. I like the two. I like The Talisman and Isle of Avalon from that album, and Coming Home. I think that's it. And then to close the album, I would go to the original bad album at the time, which everyone thought was the worst one, until, of course, we got much worse albums, which would be No Prayer for the Dying with Run Silent, Run Deep, and Hooks in You. Again, very hard rocky, unusual kind of sound, bad production. So that's basically just another compilation, but I call it We Can't Compose, like we can't dance.
Wow. Okay, there's some There's some real
Contrarian,
pain
right? I
there.
think Contrarian.
I love Running Silent, Running Deep. I think Hooks in You is one of the worst songs that Iron Maiden ever recorded.
Excellent.
I love Running Silent, Running Deep. All right, we're at the end. Lance, this is your chance. Don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot. Have you thought of a title?
Yeah, it's got to be something like the Ballad of Ed or like Eddie's Conquest. I've always
Okay.
I've always been
good.
obsessed with Maiden doing something with Eddie and making it more concrete, like we're talking about. So I would love that concept. And also, I gotta say real quick, ever since you said something about there being one final survivor in their story, I've had Soul Survivor by Blue Oyster Cult stuck in my head. Don't even love that song, but thank you.
All right. Well, little preview there. Stay tuned for another video. Spoiler alert for coming Contrarians videos. All right, guys, thank you for doing this panel with me. Everybody who watches, thank you for watching us. I hope that this has provided you a few minutes of respite from your otherwise dreary experience. I'm kidding. I know that you all live wonderful lives. That's why you spend a lot of time watching YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us. We're so glad that you enjoy our videos, and we're always happy to talk classic rock and metal and who knows what all else. I think we're expanding out now to, post-punk and power pop, and who knows what all we'll be covering it someday. But I hope that we will see you again real soon on another video. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
Cheers. Yep.
See you later.